If you've ever browsed the web and seen job postings for easy work with high pay in Cambodia, international telesales paying thousands of dollars a month with room and board included, stop and think twice. If a handsome guy or pretty girl starts talking to you out of the blue, asking all kinds of personal questions and pretending to be confused, think carefully. No attractive stranger has that much free time. That job offer or romantic doorway doesn't lead to heaven. It leads to a closed-off hell where you become both a victim and are turned into a fellow scammer targeting your own community. This is a true story in Cambodia, in areas that international media call a modern city of crime, which even contains a separate zone for Vietnamese people. These workplaces exist solely to scam Vietnamese people. They're designed, operated, and targeted specifically at the Vietnamese. According to the U.S. indictment against Chen Zhi, Prince Group's internal files include a section called Vietnam Order Fraud and another line labeled Scripted Conversations in Vietnamese. That means Vietnamese people are not random victims, but a distinct market that was researched, analyzed, and systematically built for scams. If you've ever scrolled through social media and seen job posts offering easy, high-paying work in Cambodia, international telesales positions promising thousands of dollars a month with free food and housing, stop and think carefully. If a handsome guy or pretty girl suddenly starts chatting with you, asking random questions, pretending to be confused about something, think again, because no attractive stranger has that much free time. That door of opportunity, whether it looks like a job offer or romance, doesn't lead to heaven. It leads to a closed-off hell, where you become both a victim and the scammer targeting your own people. This is a true story in Cambodia, in areas that international media describe as modern crime cities, which even include separate zones designated for Vietnamese workers. These so-called work zones exist solely to scam Vietnamese people, carefully designed, managed, and operated to target them. According to a U.S. indictment against Chen Zhi, internal files from Prince Group even had a special section titled Vietnam Order Scams and another labeled Vietnamese Scripted Conversations. This means that Vietnamese victims were not random targets. They were a well-researched, well-analyzed, and deliberately constructed market for fraud. How were Vietnamese people deceived, and why do scammers have a dedicated market just for Vietnam? Let's start with the zone specifically built to scam Vietnamese people. From afar, this Vietnamese zone inside Cambodia's Prince Group complex looks like any modern urban area: iron gates, uniformed guards, and high walls. The signs outside often bear harmless names like Science Park, nothing that would raise suspicion. But once you step inside, it's an entirely different world. The whole compound is surrounded by high walls, barbed wire, and armed security posts. Rows of tall buildings stand tightly packed together, with each floor divided into small rooms called ROMs, dormitories for employees. However, these employees are mostly people who were tricked into coming, had their passports confiscated, and are forced to work in brightly lit rooms that operate 24/7. Each room contains dozens of desks, each equipped with rows of phones, computers, and network devices, all connected to a massive system known as a phone farm. In one such facility, investigators counted over 1,200 active phones, simultaneously managing more than 76,000 social media accounts. Each account has its own fake persona and backstory, but they all share the same mission: to scam Vietnamese people. Every worker in the Vietnamese zone is given a ready-made English script, much like a show host's cue cards, guiding exactly what to say, how to chat, and how to manipulate their victims step by step. And the stage here is none other than social media accounts. Take the crypto investment script, for example. At first, the scammer pretends to be a friendly, charming acquaintance and befriends the victim online. After a few days of chatting, they introduce an investment app that supposedly generates high daily profits. Of course, that app is fake. Every time a victim transfers money, the system records the transaction and the worker's performance is rated based on how much they bring in. There are other scripts too, such as order scams, where employees pose as online shops, trick Vietnamese buyers into placing orders, and then steal their money. Everything is meticulously planned to a chilling degree. Which floor, which room, and which type of scam each department handles are clearly documented in the internal planning records of Chen Zhi, the head of Prince Group. Chen Zhi, a Cambodian businessman of Chinese descent, was once hailed as a model investor. He is the chairman of Prince Group, a conglomerate with holdings in banking, real estate, tourism, and technology. Online, he appears as a refined businessman wearing a Rolex, posing with top officials, and being praised by Cambodian media as a generous philanthropist. But behind closed doors, according to the indictment filed by the U.S. federal court in Brooklyn, the entire system was just a facade. Behind it lay a transnational fraud empire, earning tens of millions of U.S. dollars every day through these scam compounds. The U.S. accuses Chen Zhi of orchestrating the entire network, directly overseeing financial records and profits from the scams. An internal document seized by investigators detailed that Building A, second floor, was in charge of Vietnamese order scams, the third floor handled crypto fraud in Europe, and the fourth floor ran romance scams targeting Chinese victims. It was a structure as organized as a global corporation, except it wasn't a tech company but a high-tech fraud conglomerate. How were Vietnamese people lured into this web in Cambodia? Most were drawn in through fake job advertisements. Websites posted ads seeking Vietnamese-speaking chat operators in Cambodia, offering high salaries, free meals and housing, and a professional work environment. They promised flight tickets, visas, and even free training. But once workers arrived in Phnom Penh or Sihanoukvuk, everything changed. Their passports were confiscated for processing, and they were taken to scam compounds, losing all freedom. At first, many thought the walled compounds were simply for safety, but within days they realized they couldn't go outside, couldn't make phone calls, and their actual job was to scam others. Anyone who complained was threatened, beaten, or sold to another compound, sometimes for tens of thousands of dollars. Yes, in these places, people are traded like property. A skilled scammer could even be resold at a higher price. Inside the Vietnamese zones, everything ran like a factory. In the morning, a siren would sound. Workers ate breakfast, then sat at their desks to chat or call targets. Supervisors, usually Cambodian or Chinese, stood in the middle of the room with boards tracking daily revenue. Every day, those who met their scam quota earned a small bonus, while those who failed were fined or locked up. At night, the glow of phone screens lit up the whole building. The sounds of typing, message alerts, and supervisor shouting filled the air. Many young people, tricked into coming to Cambodia for international telesales jobs, were now forced to lure others into crypto scams. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but there was no escape. Many who tried to flee were beaten, electrocuted, or sold elsewhere. A few managed to escape, reaching the Vietnamese embassy or being rescued by Cambodian police, but most simply disappeared. According to testimony from a former member of Prince Group, in 2018 alone, the network earned over $30 million per day from scams. To achieve that, they bought millions of hacked phone numbers and accounts from black markets around the world. Those datasets were loaded into the system for mass texting and calling. A single worker in the Vietnamese zone could control dozens of Zalo, Telegram, or Facebook accounts at once. Each account has its own fake persona, unique profile pictures, voice, and writing styles. Everything functioned like an assembly line. Group A made first contact, Group B persuaded victims to invest, Group C collected the money, and Group D laundered it through apps or shell companies. The laundered money was funneled back into banks, real estate, or legitimate subsidiaries of Prince Group, making dirty money look like clean profit. Why target Vietnamese people? In the world of fraud, Vietnamese are considered golden targets. Vietnam has an extremely high rate of social media use. Over 80% of the population is active on Facebook, Zalo, and other platforms. Moreover, many Vietnamese tend to trust people who speak their language and seem familiar. So when a fluent, friendly Vietnamese-speaking friend shares personal stories and emotional conversations, victims are easily convinced. Cross-border online fraud cases are rarely prosecuted in Vietnam, making the country seem low risk and highly profitable to scammers. As a result, in Prince Group's internal documents, Vietnam was marked as a distinct high-revenue market. The scammers even went as far as choosing profile photos of women who were not too attractive to appear more realistic. If someone looked too perfect, victims might get suspicious. The employees were trained in psychological manipulation. For the first 3 days, they would never mention money, only talk about family, food, or daily life to build emotional trust. Once the victim believed in them, the scam would begin. This was an assembly line of fake emotions, cold, calculated, and terrifyingly effective. The entire operation was exposed only when U.S. investigators traced massive scam-related money flows through New York's banking system. Transactions worth hundreds of millions of dollars led back to Cambodia, specifically Prince Holding Group. In October 2025, the U.S. federal court in Brooklyn indicted Chen Zhi on charges of conspiracy to commit online fraud and international money laundering. American investigators identified Prince Group as an organized criminal syndicate dominating Cambodia's scam industry. Meanwhile, several international organizations released reports stating that the Cambodian government had allowed these compounds to operate for years. Satellite images even showed the sites expanding, adding new walls and more armed checkpoints, like a city within a city. Under international pressure, Cambodia launched crackdowns, but many compounds merely changed names, replaced their signs, or paused temporarily before resuming under new fronts. Even today, at the Vietnam-Cambodia border, small groups of rescued Vietnamese victims are repatriated each month, thin, exhausted, many bearing scars. Some had been sold multiple times, others spent over a year trying to escape. The most tragic part is that many were not only deceived, but forced to deceive others, turning them into links in the same trap that destroyed their own people's trust and savings. When rescued, most victims are traumatized, fearful, and haunted. Many stay silent out of guilt and shame. The Vietnamese scam compounds in Cambodia stand as a dark symbol of the digital age, where technology, money, and crime merge into a cold machine. It shows that just one click or one message can pull you into a web crafted by hundreds of people behind screens. More importantly, it serves as a warning. Don't believe in promises of easy, high-paying jobs. The only high you'll face there is high voltage from torture. Don't send money to online acquaintances. And if anyone invites you to work in Cambodia's so-called international offices, check carefully. If a beautiful stranger suddenly messages you, don't rush to believe them, because that office might actually be a locked room filled with hundreds of glowing phones and thousands of muffled cries, silenced by fear. Thank you for watching this story. If you found it informative and meaningful, please consider subscribing, turning on notifications, and sharing. For now, this is Societale Stories signing off. Thank you for staying with us.